So what I'm showing you is a fundamental mistake that most people make with the paint, and that is that they don't use enough pigment. Now, this is what I would call a well. You can call it whatever you want. And when you look in, there's no paint. So you can put in some water and you can mix it. And as you start digging in it, you might get some paint out of it. But essentially, as you dig into it, you're spoiling the brush and you're spoiling, you're not getting enough paint out of it. In this case, there's a bit of paint, which is not so bad. But when we look here, and we look at this point, this is the amount of paint that often some people put in. They put in this little drop here. And that's not the way you fill your palette. This is the way you do it. So I'm just going to put it here. It's toothpaste. It's like toothpaste. That's what one of my teachers, Ted, used to say. It's like toothpaste. See that? Now, can you see the difference between this and this? Or this and, say, this? Where I'm going to put a drop of paint and trying to move it around. I don't get anything out of this. And this, on the other hand, look at it. I can put it there, and this is like butter or toothpaste. It's just there, and it's great. It's almost out of the tube. Now you're thinking, well, what am I going to do with that? Well, this is where we can start to dilute it, and now we've got a nice yellow ochre on the palette itself. So fundamentally, you have to have this. Now, when people say, well, it's going to dry. Well, yes, it's going to dry because that's what things do when they're allowed to sit there, they dry. And all you have to do to get it moist again is just put some water, or if you've got a spray, just spray on it and let it sit there. Go and get yourself a cup of tea, and you can do that like a form of meditation if you want, or you can just spray all along here, just some water. And then when you come back a couple of minutes later and you dig into it, it's moist again. But provided you have at least a bit. And really, I wouldn't go for a bit. I would make sure, as far as possible, that I have that much in it at all times, or at least most of the time. So now, that's how you're going to fill in your palette and go through most of the paints. Now, certain colors, like, for instance, this is pink. And I don't use pink that often. Trying to fill it with a whole lot of stuff might be an overkill. But you'll notice, like pink, I'm just going to use a bit of it now and then. But even so, there's no harm in filling it this well completely. That's the fundamental thing. So what do we cover? First thing is, if you've got your paint well like this, you're going to fail. You have to get it like this, and it needs to be like this, like toothpaste. The second thing is that you need to make sure that all of them are filled, and some of the colors, may get dry. And that's not a problem. You just moisten it. Look at this. This was dry, and look at it now. It's like toothpaste all over again. So you can see it here. I can put it here, and it'll get thicker and thicker. The longer it has to moisten, the thicker it'll get. And that's it. So that's just about your palette.
So do you recommend that we see that our paints are wet before we start?
Yes. If you go, just spray the paints with water, or take a big brush like that. You don't have to buy a big brush, but I could drop water like that, all through the palette, and eventually, in about 4 to 5 minutes or even quicker, all of these paints will be moist. Once they're moist, you can just start using them. You just dip into them, and they're like that. Obviously, the freshest paint is going to be like this, but look at this. Even this is moving around quite well. That's it.